Good evening, everybody. We're just going to give people a couple of minutes to get in, and then we'll begin. Okay, look like we have a very nice turnout this evening so far. Want to welcome everybody. Good evening, and welcome again to Bronxville High School. We're thrilled to have you here as we prepare for what is a really exciting transition um, to Bronxville High School and to becoming the class of 2029. When I first got here in July, Mr. Makora showed me around, and in order to help orient me, he said, think of the flagpole as the dividing line. Everything to the right of the flagpole is the middle school, and everything to the left of the flagpole is the high school. And it's not a very long distance between, one side of the flagpole to the other, but and yet it represents such growth and such difference developmentally. It's a really exciting milestone. I strongly believe that our school is a great opportunity for students to experience the three Ps, passion, play, and purpose. We're a K-12 building. Students have an opportunity to play in elementary school, learn what they like in middle school. They start finding what they're good at and develop a passion. And then high school is really the start of a journey where they discover their purpose. They may not finish it in high school, many certainly won't, but it's an important part. And we're here to help support them as they begin that journey. So this evening, we're going to focus on several aspects of the transition to high school. First, our freshman transition program. This is designed to support students as they adjust to the rigors and the challenges of high school. We're also going to go into the academic requirements for ninth grade. We're also going to discuss the course options for ninth grade. It's a lot of information. It's in our course catalog, but we're going to review it thoroughly this evening. And lastly, we'll spend some time discussing the course registration process. I'm joined tonight by our Director of Guidance, Mr. Aaron Kind, and our ninth grade guidance counselor, Miss Marina Ford. So I want to thank you for your attendance this evening, and I'm going to hand over the next few slides to our ninth grade guidance counselor, Miss Ford.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you all tonight. My name is Marina Ford. I am the fifth grade and ninth grade counselor. I had a pleasure of meeting your eighth grade students today during advisory and to begin sharing with them what their high school journey will look like over the next few weeks. And we'll talk more about that tonight. But right now, I'd like to talk about the freshman transition program. This is really a cornerstone of our ninth grade programming, and in my personal opinion, really embodies the Bronxville Promise. There's many opportunities for the students to engage with each other, engage with older students, and learn from each other, think critically, and have opportunities to really feel a sense of belonging. The freshman transition program is led by juniors and seniors who mentor freshmen in small groups. Typically, these meetings take place in our Health 9 and X Block time periods. In addition to having those small meetings with them and in those channels, we also have a lot of fun events for them built into the program. We kick off the year with a trip. The past few years, it has been at Boundless Adventure, which is a ropes course and kind of adventure course up in Purchase, New York. I had the pleasure of joining them this past year, and I was really impressed by the enthusiasm that I saw across from the leaders and from our ninth graders. And it was one of the rainiest days we had in the fall. So I think that speaks to the excitement that the students have being there with each other and also being with their leaders. And then throughout the year, we have additional events such as the gingerbread contest, which is a lot of fun. It's a nice thing to do at the end, like right before we leave for our holiday break. We will be hopefully doing something before the end of the year to kind of wrap up, say goodbye to our seniors, congratulate the freshmen on completing a successful ninth grade. And I have had the opportunity to sit in on many of their meetings, and I find that the ninth graders are very raptured and engaged when their leaders are in class and are really absorbing the information they're there to share with them. And it's a wonderful program that's built in into their classes, into their curriculum that we allow from them to learn from their peers and people who have been in their shoes not too long ago. Okay, so this here is a sample schedule of what a typical ninth grade schedule will look like. So the main difference between middle school and high school is that we have block scheduling and our academic classes meet every other day on an odd even day schedule. So as you can see, for example, we'll have something like math on odd days. That's an 80-minute block, and that meets every other day. And then that interchanges with other courses that will meet on the even day schedules. The courses highlighted in yellow are the courses that your student will have some choice in what they are taking. These will be their elective courses. This can be anything from their fine art credit that they will work towards and will need for graduation. This can be either chorus or band or orchestra. And in addition, we also have electives that we offer to ninth graders as well. There's a variety of courses such as Intro to Engineering, Philosophy, Mythology, Intro to Java. There's a lot of different opportunities for your student to develop that interest, as Dr. Laverso said, also kind of start fine-tuning maybe what that purpose is going to be. We're providing some opportunities here for them to explore those. From my ninth graders this year, what I've learned is that they appreciate this block schedule, though it is a big change from the middle school. They like having their courses broken up over the week instead of meeting every day. It does inspire a little more time management that needs to happen. So sometimes we see students have to maneuver that as they acclimate to being a high school student. One other thing I would like to touch upon that's not shown in this schedule is that on Tuesdays and Fridays, where it says lunch, we have something called X block, and that's a longer extended lunch period, but it's also an opportunity for students to participate in clubs as well as meet with teachers.
Thank you, Marina. Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Kind. I am the Director of Counseling. It's great to see you all. Thank you all for joining us. As we alluded to, there are some changes in the curriculum coming for your rising ninth graders that we wanted to make sure you're aware of, walk you through sort of the different courses, and highlight the quite breadth of classes that we offer in the high school, which you'll see in the coming slides. But first, we just wanted to stop to mention that there are classes that everybody's going to take. There's limited choice in some of these options, and I'll explain that in a second. And then we'll sort of dig a little bit deeper into math and science, and then we'll sort of wrap things up towards the end, talking a little bit more about electives. But in front of you are the requirements for all ninth graders. English and history are taken for all 4 years of high school. The themes definitely change from year to year. In the history department, students take 2 years of world history. As a junior, you take a year of US history. And then as a senior, you take some form of economics and government. Students take math for 4 years. Language is a requirement in the high school. How many years of language you take is a personal choice, and you can talk about that with your child's counselor when the time comes for future planning. Science is taken pretty much every year, and then phys ed is taken every year. Art, music, or performing arts is a 1-year requirement, so all 9th graders will choose from that, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then if they can continue to take those classes, that's definitely available to them, but not all students do. And then Health 9 is a course, as it sort of alludes to, that all 9th graders take. So they take a year of Health 9 as 9th graders and a year of Health 11 as 11th graders. This was, I believe we are in the 3rd year of this health redesign. And what we wanted to do, our approach here was to have developmentally appropriate conversations with 9th graders in 9th grade health, and then continue those conversations with juniors in junior year health. Whereas historically and at most schools, like health is like a mixed grade level course, which isn't always appropriate for 9th graders to be having the same conversations that seniors are having as it relates to sort of personal and mental health. But just going back up to the top, 9th grade English that all 9th graders will take is summarized as the individual's quest for identity. Some pieces of work that students will be reading is Homer's Odyssey, J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, as well as some other pieces of literature in addition to short fiction, poetry, and nonfiction. The English department also teaches grammar and vocabulary throughout the school year. And then in World History 1, as you can see, it's prehistory to the rise of civilization. This is all in our course catalog, as Dr. Laverso mentioned, so I definitely encourage you to take a look at that. But just to sort of highlight major units of study, again, prehistory, the great empires of antiquity, expanding zones of exchange and encounter, global interactions, cross-cultural exchanges, are some of the sort of topics or broader themes covered in World History 1. I am going to talk a little bit more about science next, so I will just pull that up. There are 2 options, potentially 3, but we're going to focus on the first 2 for the moment. There are 2 options for 9th graders in science. One is the Living Environment course. This is a biology course, somewhat similar to maybe many of the topics covered in 7th grade, but definitely at a more advanced level. That course ends in one of the 5 state regents exams that students are required to take to graduate. And so that is an option available to students. And then the other option available to students is our core curriculum. That core curriculum in science refers to chemistry and physics. It's a year-long course with the same instructor, the same students. I don't want to say half the year is chemistry or half the year is physics, but the course is designed to give students a generous introduction into both concepts, both topics, and there's a little fluidity in terms of what is covered in what order, obviously with scaffolding built in before working up to the more advanced topics in both chemistry and physics. So as Marina mentioned, we met with the 8th graders in advisory earlier today, and she'll speak more about that in a few minutes. But just on this piece of doubling up, so some of you may be familiar. It was almost an entirely auditorium full of 8th graders that are familiar with this idea of doubling up in science. And so what this means is the students as 9th graders take both the core chemistry and physics class that's required of 9th graders and a semester of biology and a semester of earth science. So they essentially take 2 science classes and thus doubling up. There isn't a real good reason for us to present this as an idea as something to consider per se, but it is something students do. We are going to ask your children the eighth graders to indicate interest in doing this, and we'll talk more about that in a few slides. For those of them that indicate interest, we will have a separate follow-up meeting with some of the science teachers to talk about what those expectations are and what they can expect on a day-to-day. If you can kind of think back from the daily schedule, you know, a student that's doubling up in chemistry and physics and biology and earth science could have 2 science classes in the same day, which most likely means at some point they will have 2 science tests on the same day. So this is not for everybody. It definitely is for the student that is excited about science. It's definitely for the student that's curious about science. And it's definitely for the student that is, you know, maybe like more advanced for their age at like managing their time and managing their schoolwork, you know, after 3 o'clock. And again, happy to answer any questions about this that come up for all of you. You know, Tim and Samantha Mazo are very familiar with all of this information as well. If you want to reach out to your child's 8th grade counselor, you can reach out to Marina, you can reach out to myself. But again, we will be talking to the students that indicate an interest in taking multiple science classes in the weeks ahead. And then just to circle back before I move on to math, the recommendation for living environment or chemistry and physics will be shared with your student as it gets closer to them registering for their courses, which again, we will speak to you about in a few slides. There's some different options in the math department that we wanted to take a few minutes to walk you through. I'll start with the Math 8 students. So the students in Math 8 are going to be recommended to move into 2 different pathways, one of them being Algebra 1A, the other being Algebra 1. The Algebra 1A class is essentially Algebra 1 broken up into 2 years. So in 9th grade, you do Algebra 1A. In 10th grade, you do Algebra 1B. The other students in Math 8 that are not recommended for that course will be recommended for Algebra 1. Math recommendations, just given the nature of the criteria for math placement, which specifically speaks to just looking at a student's performance in totality, so including 4th quarter and including a final exam. And for the students in Algebra 1, that means their Regents score. Those recommendations will be made much later in 8th grade. You know, I don't know the date of the Algebra Regents offhand. It's obviously in June. And so once those exams are scored, those math placement letters will go out to you via Infinite Campus after the results of that exam has been put into Infinite Campus, and Sarah and Connor are able to like finalize recommendations. For the Algebra 1 students, there's going to be, as you can see, one of 3 options. And again, this is going to be based on their full year grades in Algebra 1, their score on the Algebra Regents, specifically their score on the constructed response portion. The Algebra 1 exam is broken up into 2 sections, one of them being multiple choice, the other being constructed response, where they have to show their work. Students are given separate scores on those 2 sections, and those scores combine to make a raw score, and that raw score gets converted. But the 8th grade math teachers look at specifically their constructed response scores, which again just speaks to, one, it speaks to the students' just ability to work through algebraic problem solving skills. And I think also suggests that the math teachers take this recommendation quite seriously, and we put great thought and intentionality behind this. So when you are presented with the recommendation for placement for 9th grade, know that it did not get made in jest or lightly, that there was great intentionality behind it. So those 3 placements are going to be, for some students, your current algebra teacher is going to recommend you repeat algebra. I think those students that will be made that recommendation is fairly self-explanatory. The other 2 options are going to be the Geometry Honors course. And we have a slide just momentarily to speak to where that leads you to throughout high school. That's our honors level track, which is quite challenging. And then the accelerated track starts with geometry, trigonometry. And so, needless to say, if your performance in Algebra 1 throughout the year has been quite solid, and your performance on the Algebra 1 Regents exams, specifically the constructed response section, is quite solid, that you can anticipate a recommendation for that accelerated course. And where these courses lead to, Ray's gonna sort of take over.
So among some of the more common questions we receive from students and families are course progression related, and math in particular. But we definitely receive a lot of questions about not just ninth grade, but how does that set students up for the rest of their years in high school? And our high school has several levels of mathematics, and it's really meant to meet kids where they are in terms of their learning profile. Not every student needs to take the highest level of mathematics for what they want to do once they leave high school. So that there are options for students where they're still getting a rigorous math content background, but not necessarily the most challenging background. It's appropriate for where they are when they enter high school, and there's opportunities to take advanced coursework for everybody. So students starting in the geometry level will advance to Algebra 2 in their sophomore year. In their junior year, they have the opportunity to take pre-calculus, and we offer calculus as an honors class for their senior year. If students are in the honors level for geometry, they can take Algebra 2 trig at the honors level in their sophomore year. We have a pre-calculus honors class for juniors, and then in their senior year, they have the opportunity to take AP calculus, which would end in an AP exam. And at the accelerated level, students taking GeoTrig, students who complete that in ninth grade go on to take Algebra 2 Pre-Calc, which is an integrated course that introduces students to some of the more advanced pre-calc concepts in advance of 11th grade. In 11th grade, students take differential calculus, which sets them up for AP Calculus BC. I want to just point out that regardless of the level a student begins at, they have the opportunity to take more advanced coursework, and they also have the opportunity to take APs, whether it's in calculus, AP Stat, or AP Computer Science. And this is, for geometry, trigonometry, I've had the benefit of working in several different school systems, and I will say Bronxville is the most creative in their approach to introducing math to freshmen. And I will also say that GeoTrig is a very rigorous course compared to what most ninth graders experience. I think it's great to have that option, but I also think it's important to note that it's really the most appropriate for students who are excited about math, have a high intellectual curiosity in mathematics, and also exhibit really good grades in math throughout the year consistently. I would say having an average of close to 90 or well above 90 is a good indicator for readiness for that level. In terms of general course progression, in English, students take, we alluded to some of the curriculum and the content in English 9, and the works of literature that students cover in 9th and 10th grade are really well aligned to just students' development level. And, a lot of things that students grapple with in high school is figuring out, like I said before, what am I good at? What do I want to do? How do I see myself in the world? And a lot of the characters they encounter in those works of literature are doing similar things in 9th and 10th grade. And this sets the foundation for students to either go into honors English 11 or take advanced placement English language composition and English literature AP in grade 12. So students have the options to take all of the advanced placement courses in English in their 4 years in high school. For history, we have, as Mr. Kind alluded to earlier, there's an honors level and a regents level. Most courses are taught at the honors level initially. So we have world history honors. Students can advance in 10th grade to world history 2 honors, or they could take AP world history. In their junior year, we move to United States history. A student can take honors United States history or advanced placement US history. And then in senior year, we offer a semester of economics and a semester of government and politics, or if students prefer, they could take the advanced level and they could do AP macroeconomics, which is a great course, as well as advanced placement US government. And we talked a little bit about science, and I think it's important to note our approach for science is very creative as well. The new standards emphasize the fact that science really isn't just 4 disciplines, but it's interdisciplinary in nature. And the core sciences that we offer in 9th and 10th grade really allow students to see how chemistry and physics and biology and earth science are connected with cross-cutting concepts, as well as the practices that all scientists engage in. So whether students are taking living environment, physics and chemistry 9th grade, or core earth science biology, they're engaging in those practices, they're conducting experiments, they're engaged in inquiry-based learning throughout. And it's really developing the practices that they're going to need to apply to more advanced level coursework. So in 11th grade, students can take the second part of chemistry, they could take earth science 2, they could take biology 2, or they can pick advanced placement environmental science, AP biology, or AP chemistry. And then in grade 12, the same options exist. So students do have the option to take, and we offer just about every AP class you can take in science, which includes AP physics, AP chemistry, AP biology, AP environmental science, and there's several levels of AP physics, AP physics 1, AP physics 2, as well as AP physics C, which some of our students elect to do through independent study. And lastly, world languages is pretty straightforward, depending on what is, some students will elect to change their languages. I don't necessarily recommend that, but for the most part, the language that students are studying in middle school will be the language that they continue through with high school. We also offer a Mandarin program that's done virtually with supervision at the high school level, and we have all different levels of Mandarin up to Mandarin 5. And we also offer AP level courses in Spanish, Latin, and French. So it's a comprehensive, I threw a lot of information at you, and I know I said in the beginning it's in the course catalog. So I definitely encourage you to look through the course catalog and study that as best you can before coming to the table for course selection. And if you have any questions, definitely use tonight as an opportunity to ask, and you could always email any one of us to help you through the decision-making process. So for the next few slides, I'm going to hand it back over to Mr. Kind, I think, to go through course selection.
Thanks, Ray. So it is a lot, but I guess like the good news is for 9th grade, it's filtered down a little bit. You know, so students have 7 blocks to schedule a class, and 4 of those classes are either common classes that students will take, you know, all 9th graders will take, classes that are being recommended to you by your current teacher. So that's the math and science, English and history being the common classes. So really students are only choosing for 9th grade, they're making 3 choices. And following my next slide, Marina's going to tell you about how we are advising them through that. And we're obviously here tonight to help all of you sort of get any questions that you may have answered. But it's 3 choices for 9th grade. I guess Ray most recently spoke about language. Again, I would agree. Most students continue with the language that they've taken in 8th grade. Some students, we had one this afternoon ask if they can take a second language course. It's an option, most definitely. It's available to them. You know, from what you see in front of you, that student or a student that chooses to maybe start Spanish or start Mandarin or start something that we offer at the level, at the, you know, initial, at the first year level, will most likely not be able to take an elective or some of the electives you see in front of you. That additional language course will serve as their elective. And so too, for the students that double up in science, they might not be able to access an elective in 9th grade because that additional science class will serve as their elective course. So they have a choice of language. Students as I spoke about before, are required to take at least 1 year of some type of art, music, or theater requirement. Band, orchestra, and chorus should be quite familiar to all of you. Those continue throughout high school. We do have an honors band section and an honors chorus section. Your child should speak to their instructor of those ensembles to see if they qualify for one of those specific sections. Otherwise, if they continue to take band as they've done throughout middle school, then they'll just go into, regular band. Band, orchestra, and chorus are most definitely mixed grade levels. A number of classes in high school are mixed grade levels. I would say for ninth graders, those are going to be the most likely their art, music, or theater or elective courses will be the only ones that are of mixed grades. Their math class, English class, history class, gym class, health class are going to be all filled with entirely ninth graders. One of our stellar English teachers offers an acting and directing course, pretty self-explanatory, probably something for a student that has a propensity for dramatic arts. And so that will be available to students to fulfill this art music credit if they choose to do that. We have a full year studio art class for students that are interested in or want to study art. They can take Art 1. Art 1 works towards an AP art course for students that are of interest that want to take that. That would consist of them continuing to take art year over year, working towards building a portfolio, which ultimately is the essence of their AP exam. They send off the pieces of their work. And our art department, our art teachers are phenomenal. And I know that they would, all our teachers are phenomenal, quite frankly, but the art department's great and students really enjoy studio art. We also offer, which you can kind of look at as like somewhat of an elective in art, as a semester of crafts and a semester of ceramics. For students that are maybe more interested in getting their hands dirty than the traditional studio art course. And then lastly, as a semester course, there's a semester of speech and debate. And so for students that are looking to fulfill an art requirement through speech and debate, they would have to also take either a semester of acting or a semester of directing. A semester by itself does not fulfill the requirement. But that class most definitely can be taken as a standalone course. And then lastly, in terms of electives that are available to students in ninth grade, you can see those in front of you. We are going to spend some time in the weeks ahead that you'll hear about momentarily talking to the students about what these electives are. We're going to have current ninth graders talk to the eighth graders about what these electives are, and students will have the opportunity to sign up for them. Although I will add a word of caution before I turn things over to Marina, that, in our high school is, it's breathtaking, it's phenomenal. It is also rather small in size. And as you will see, or as you've seen from the course catalog, we have a breadth of course offerings available to students. And sometimes strictly driven by student interest, some things do not get enough signups for. And so sometimes some courses don't run. And this could happen in any year, whether it be for ninth graders or for seniors. Sometimes classes don't run. Our process is the following. We are taking requests right now from students in 8, 9, 10, and 11. Those requests get sort of fed into our system, and a master schedule is built and individual schedules get made. I would say in late May, early June, if something is not running or something is not fitting in a student's schedule, which is also something that happens in high school, you will be notified by Marina or possibly Tim or Samantha in the middle school that you need to meet with Marina to talk about other options because something isn't running or something isn't working out. So just putting that out there in the event that happens, it can happen from year to year, it's hard to anticipate which course is not going to run because we're letting the students sort of drive the master schedule and which courses get scheduled for students to take.
Okay, so there is quite a few things to consider when building their schedule. You know, they have some choice now in their electives and the language they're going to pursue and some other areas that they're learning as well. But what is really important that we want for them to find in ninth grade is a sense of balance. They may hear from some friends that they're taking like a very rigorous course load with rigorous electives and advanced placement for their math and sciences, and that's great for them, but that's not always the right path for every single student. As the ninth grade counselor, I really hope that this year is an opportunity for them to hone in their skills as a high school student, develop that academic foundation that will allow them to be successful throughout high school. There will be plenty of opportunities for them to challenge themselves in future in their higher grade levels. So when we're creating their schedule in ninth grade, I want them to kind of think big picture, you know, what can they handle? What is balance for them? What are their individual work habits like and study habits? And all of that will have all of that fit together. As we move through the next few weeks and they work to select their courses, I'll be there kind of reiterating this message to them, also having ninth graders visit them and kind of share the sentiment as well. You know, Ray, again, I'm going to build off of what he said of like finding their passion and purpose. And in ninth grade, we're laying the foundation for those opportunities to build. And we want them to take courses that are going to matter to them, not just because someone else is doing that. So just to touch again on what the next few weeks will be looking like for your eighth grade student. Today we met as a large group with all of advisory. They had a chance to meet myself. This was more of an overview, an introduction of what high school will look like. A lot of information shared here was also shared with them tonight. They had a chance to ask some questions. Next week, there will be a panel of ninth graders there to speak about their life as a ninth grader. We're going to have representatives from all types of students, you know, students who have challenging courses, students who are pursuing maybe their passions more, students who can talk about what they found are helpful as they acclimated to high school. So I think that will be a really helpful opportunity for your eighth graders to learn what works for some people and see, like, absorb some of that information and consider it as they're thinking about their courses for next year. Our last meeting will be on April 25th, where your student will have the opportunity to actually select their courses. And this will be done through Infinite Campus. They will be registering or selecting their courses right through the portal. And again, they will be picking their elective course in their world language in their fine art class. If there's an issue where the course doesn't fit in their schedule or the course is full or the course isn't being offered, you will hear from me or one of their middle school counselors about other options. I really look forward to working with them over the next few weeks and getting to know them better. I'm excited to work with them again in the ninth grade in a much fuller capacity and help them develop those schedules, also be there as a source of support as they navigate this high school process.
So just in closing off, in order to ensure like the smoothest transition possible and an optimization of the next 4 years, I think, and Ms. Ford does a really good job of reiterating this to students all the time. It's very important to look at these do's and don'ts very carefully. For one, it's really simple, but checking your email. Do check your email. We always tell students it's important to check their email regularly. There's opportunities, there's reminders, and it's also a good life skill, just being responsive to email. I think that coming out of middle school, they're very used to that. So I expect that, in ninth grade, it wouldn't be that big of a jump for them. Because I know this year, Mr. McCord has been encouraging them to use their emails regularly. Do attend extra help right away. Don't wait to feel completely overwhelmed. As soon as there's a minor misunderstanding or a minor struggle in the course, I would encourage students to go to extra help right away and stay on top of it. Do join clubs. There's a club fair in the beginning of the year. Students should attend that and join as many clubs as possible. It's better to join more clubs and figure out which ones you want to stay in than to join fewer clubs and then get stuck if you don't like them. Do get to know your guidance counselor. So do get to know Ms. Ford. Do get to know your counselors for the next 3 years of high school. They're a resource for you. They know a lot. They've been through high school. They've been through a lot of students going through high school. And chances are, if you're experiencing a problem, they've seen it before and they'll know how to guide you. Do create a study schedule and follow it. We work with students as part of the transition program very carefully to get them to develop study habits and time management skills. So when they get these templates to develop a study schedule, it's very important that they engage in that activity and follow it. I think it's a good practice, and it's definitely something that will follow them beyond high school. They definitely should take advantage of their free periods to get work done if they have them. It's not very common for ninth graders, but following ninth grade, it could be something that they do have in their schedule. And there are times when they might have an A, B, or EF block, a 40-minute chunk of time free, and it's important to maximize that time and make it as productive as possible. When there's electives or mini electives offered, it's important to take advantage of them. So do take advantage of XBlock to be in clubs and to be in mini electives, and do sign up for things that you're passionate about. I think it's important for students to follow their interest. It makes for the best stories when they're writing their college essays, and it just makes for the most enjoyable experience for the next 4 years. If you're passionate about school and you feel connected to what you're doing, that's a recipe for really good results. Some of the don'ts that some students struggle with: don't be late to class. Don't wait to the last minute to get help. That's a really important one. Sometimes students think that they'll get it, or that it's a sign of, just not being good enough at something to go to extra help. I think some of our strongest students are able to check in and know when they need help, and they go to extra help right away. So it's a misconception that some students have. It's important to go to extra help right away. Don't wait for the last minute. Don't select a course because your friends are doing it. I think we've probably all experienced that. I think some of the best courses I took were courses I didn't expect to like, and either accidentally had to take, or I took a risk and I didn't want to take that course, so I took a different course. And I didn't know anyone, and I made some friends, and I learned something I wouldn't have learned. Don't skip clubs because your friends are not in it. Clubs are a great place to make new friends. And also to explore a new interest. And don't hand work in late. Not because one late assignment is the end of the world, but because late assignments can snowball, and it gets to the point where it could be overwhelming, and it could create a setback that you could avoid if you're just staying on top of due dates, and again, creating a study schedule and a work schedule and following it. All skills that we try to help students develop in the freshman transition program. So I'm going to stop there. We've said a lot to you this evening, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. So you could use the chat to ask questions. You're probably not able to unmute because this is a webinar setup. So feel free to use the chat if you have questions.
I will add, in September, we have another event for ninth grade parents. So you'll have another chance to hear from me and Ray and Marina, most likely a few other members of the high school faculty, prior to meeting your children's teachers at back to school night. So this is, sort of the first of many meetings with us. But for tonight, we really wanted to make sure you were aware of sort of what to expect as it relates to ninth grade coursework, the registration process, our transition program, and definitely some sort of like wise tidbits of do's and don'ts as you begin to sort of prepare yourselves for life with a high school student.
I see two questions. I could tackle the first one.
Okay.
How is the Chinese class organized? It is online. It's taught virtually. We partner with a program in upstate New York. The model seems to have worked well. I know during COVID, we had some horror stories with virtual instruction. However, there are students that are very interested in learning Mandarin. It's one of the most popular languages in the world. For students who are interested in business, it's definitely a helpful language to learn, or diplomacy, or work in government or law. It's a valuable language. So we offer all levels. So it's broken up on level just like any of our other language courses. The only difference really is they're learning over the computer, and we have teachers in the classroom to support them as they go. It's usually a language teacher that covers as well. But they have the same opportunities as other students in other language courses. For example, this week, the Mandarin students are going on a trip into Manhattan, in Chinatown for a day. And I think, we have about 30 students in the program from Mandarin 1 to Mandarin 5. And it should be, it's going to be a well-subscribed trip, and they're looking forward to it.
I will take the next few that I'm just there's a question about course selections due by. There's no due date per se. So again, we started meeting with the 8th graders today. We're going to meet with them again next week. They're going to hear from current 9th graders. And then when we get back from spring break, we're going to gather again and have them make selections here in school via Infinite Campus. So to answer another question, there's no individual meeting with Marina to pick classes. The students are being sort of shared. We're sharing with the students their options here in school, obviously sharing with you. I'm sure you will be speaking with your child about what they heard today and what they hear next week. And then when they come back after spring break, they're going to make a choice of those 3 options: their language course, their elective class, and their art, music, or performing arts course.
Given the rigorous and extensive workloads, how do you handle teacher absences, substitutes? So typically, if a teacher is going to be absent long-term, we would put a certified teacher in that content area in the classroom to support students and to ensure continuity and instruction. However, it's a short-term, if it's a short-term absence, we usually handle that with a substitute who can continue work for 1, 2, or 3 days.
So I think the first question was back to digital photography, which I answered was the art department, the art teachers noticed that students that have taken digital photography in the past without any previous art instruction were not having as, I guess, a productive semester as others. And so they decided to put the prerequisite of a year of studio art for that course before students could take digital photography. And so that is the reasoning behind that change.
I can answer the question about clubs. We have a club fair at the end of September. It's held in the evening. All of the various clubs are there with the representatives. It's very informative. So we encourage all 9th grade students to attend. And there's no formal registration. Once they learn about the clubs and when they meet, they can visit those meetings, and we encourage them to attend as many as they can.
I could answer the question about the Mandarin assessment. The Mandarin level assessment takes place with other language assessments. That'll likely be before the school year starts, sometime in August. That's typically when they give the placement tests.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just add to that. That's, I guess, somewhat of most students are coming into Mandarin at level 1. If that is not where you believe your child is at, then when they pick classes, they should pick a different level of Mandarin. So, or you can reach out to Marina, just so we're kind of flagged to that. Obviously Mandarin is not taught in our middle school or elementary school. So if somebody has some, if it's their first language or spoken at home and thinks they're more advanced in Mandarin 1, we can give them some type of assessment. So this is kind of an answer to questions number 1 and number 2. I'm just going to talk more about this in September, particularly to one of the comments, and this answers everything. There's been a change in the structure of the counseling department since some of you had students move through the high school. 2 years ago, we moved to a different model where there is a dedicated 9th grade counselor and myself and 3 other counselors who you will meet at a later date, serve students in grades 10, 11, and 12. And so with that came a lot of different changes and a lot of different improvements. As you heard from Marina, she has an amazing pulse on what's happening in 9th grade. She's in and out of classrooms. She's teaching lessons to 9th graders, sometimes in collaboration with our high school counselor. But it also has allowed her to get to know that grade, and it has allowed us as the 10, 11, and 12 counselors to get to work with upperclassmen and focus on upperclassmen needs. And so with that, there is no longer the same need to meet with a counselor in 9th grade to make the choices that they have available to them. At a date in 9th grade, students will find out who they've been assigned to for 10th grade, and there will be a meeting with that person basically a year from now, actually, as they prepare to move into 10th grade. And each year there'll be a meeting with your child's counselor to talk about course selection and obviously start to plan sort of post-high school planning when that time comes. Speech and debate. Sorry, go Marina.
Okay, yeah, this last question, yes, speech and debate
Yeah.
is a semester course. Ray also answered this offline. We can see if they take speech and debate, what could fit on the other half of their the other semester as a counterpart course.
All right, I want to thank everyone for their time this evening. I hope this was informative. And again, I know we presented a lot of information, and I'm sure you'll have questions. So if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Any one of us, Ms. Ford, Mr. Kind, or myself, we're happy to help you. This is an exciting time, and we want to be there for you every step of the way. So I hope you have a good evening, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for coming out.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.